For 3 years, she was just another quiet face in Miller's Cafe in Aspen, Colorado. Amélie Dupont, who sat in the corner every morning with her black coffee and French poetry books. The locals knew her as the freelance translator, who kept to herself and took long hikes in the mountains. They had no idea they were sharing coffee with the most lethal sniper in U.S. military history. When news broke that 10 American Special Forces operators were trapped under heavy fire in the Himalayas, with less than an hour to live, Amélie knew the Pentagon would fail them. Official rescue was 45 minutes away. The math was simple. They would all be dead before help arrived. One shot, 450 meters, 10 lives, hanging by a thread. Who was this mysterious woman who vanished into the Colorado mountains that morning? How could someone make an impossible shot across continents to save American lives? And why was the world's deadliest sniper hiding in a sleepy mountain town, pretending to be normal? This story reveals the truth about hidden legends, the precision of perfection, and the moment when a quiet life becomes a life-or-death mission. Welcome to Shadow Alpine. Hit subscribe because what happens next will forever change your understanding of skill and determination. Miller's Cafe, Aspen, Colorado, 7:23 a.m. The first snow of winter dusted the streets of Aspen as Miller's Cafe began its morning ritual. The aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries filled the air, mixed with the gentle murmur of locals starting their day. In the back corner, at the same table she'd chosen every morning for 3 years, sat Amélie Dupont, 34 years old, 5'7", with chestnut brown hair usually pulled into a simple bun. Her green eyes appeared calm, almost dreamy, but those who looked closely recognized a sharpness there, the awareness of someone constantly scanning their environment. "Morning, Amélie," greeted Tom Miller, the cafe owner, bringing her usual black coffee. "Same as always. No cream, no sugar." "Thank you, Tom," she replied with a soft smile. Her voice was quiet, cultured, with an accent that was hard to place. French, but with undertones suggesting years spent in different countries. The other customers barely noticed her. To them, Amélie was just the quiet woman who spent her mornings with a book, today Baudelaire's Flowers of Evil, and sometimes stared for hours out the window at the majestic Rocky Mountain peaks. What they didn't know, Amélie wasn't admiring the mountains. She was reading them. Wind speed, air pressure, visibility conditions, temperature variations, details that meant nothing to a normal person, but were vital information for someone with her training. At 8:47 a.m., everything changed. The small radio behind the counter was broadcasting the morning news when suddenly an urgent bulletin interrupted the routine. Special Forces unit trapped under heavy fire in the Himalayas. 10 American soldiers. Critical situation. Rescue operations hampered by extreme weather. Amélie froze. Her coffee cup hovered halfway to her lips as each word hit like a dagger. Enemy force estimated at 40 fighters. Strategically superior position. Time running out. Tom shook his head. Christ, those poor boys. So far from home. But Amélie wasn't listening anymore. Calculations were already running through her head. Himalayas. Altitude, 14,000 feet. Air density, 60% of sea level. Wind patterns, unpredictable. Distance from her position, impossible. Or was it? She pulled out her smartphone and opened what appeared to be an ordinary weather app, but was actually a sophisticated tactical planning system that provided real-time data on wind speeds, air pressure, and ballistic conditions anywhere in the world. The numbers confirmed her fears. The trapped unit was in a position practically unreachable by conventional rescue operations. "Excuse me," she murmured, leaving money on the table. Tom looked surprised. In 3 years, Amélie had never left before 10 a.m. "Everything all right, Amélie?" "Yes," she replied, but her eyes had taken on an expression Tom had never seen before. Cold, focused, dangerous. She left the cafe and walked quickly through the snowy streets to an unremarkable chalet on the outskirts of town. From the outside, it looked like the vacation home of an artist or writer. The neighbors knew she did something with translations and traveled frequently. Amélie opened 3 different locks and entered. The interior was spartanly furnished, but the basement revealed a completely different reality. Walls covered with topographical maps from around the world, computers with encrypted communication systems, and in a climate-controlled gun safe, a custom-built Z96 precision rifle that looked like a work of art. Amélie changed clothes, from comfortable cafe attire into black tactical gear. Looking in the mirror, the quiet book reader had vanished. In her place stood someone else. Amélie Phantom Dupont, former Delta Force sniper, 67 confirmed eliminations across 5 continents, record holder for the longest confirmed shot in U.S. military history, officially killed in action during a mission in Syria 5 years ago, unofficially alive and heading to her most impossible assignment. She loaded her gear into an unremarkable Land Rover and drove into the mountains. The trapped unit had 47 minutes to live, and Amélie Phantom Dupont was their only hope. Rocky Mountain National Park, 9,340 feet elevation. 10:15 a.m. Amelie climbed the final steep slope, her equipment perfectly balanced on her back. The thin mountain air burned in her lungs, but her movements were precise and rhythmic, the result of years of conditioning for extreme environments. The hidden observation post she sought was a secret known to few. Her grandfather, Jean-Baptiste Dupont, himself a legend of the French resistance who later served with U.S. Special Forces, had shown her these hidden paths as a child during summer visits. A true sniper, he had said, fights not just with the rifle, but with the landscape itself. As she reached the rocky outcrop, a breathtaking view spread before her, but Amelie saw no beauty. She saw geometry, angles, distances, ballistic possibilities. She set up her equipment, the Z-96 rifle, modified with optics she had developed herself, wind meters, barometric pressure gauges, a laser rangefinder, and the most important tool, a tablet with software that intercepted real-time data from military satellites. Impossible, she muttered as the numbers appeared. Target area, Himalayas, Nepal. Distance, 3,451 meters. Elevation difference, 4,442 feet. Wind speed at target, 18 ms. Gusting. Air density, 58% of sea level. Any other sniper would have given up, but Amelie wasn't any other sniper. Her smartphone vibrated, an encrypted message from a contact she hadn't heard from in years. Phantom, know you're there. Echo Team has 23 minutes. Enemy strategist is Rahman al-Qasidi, recognizable by red beret. Coordinates follow. Albatross, Albatross. Colonel Marc Rousseau, her former commander in joint operations, the only man who knew she was still alive. The coordinates appeared on her screen, and Amelie aligned her scope. Through the high-powered optics, she could see the battlefield, as if she were in the middle of it. A small ravine in the Himalayas, 10 American soldiers, pinned down behind improvised barricades. Around them at least 40 enemy fighters, strategically positioned on the surrounding heights. And there, on a dominating rock outcrop, the man in the red beret, Rahman al-Qasidi, the strategist coordinating the attacks. Amelie calculated. Wind drift at this distance, 7.5 feet left. Bullet drop, 28.5 feet. Coriolis effect, minimal but present. Air pressure difference between firing and target position, critical. She pulled out a small notebook, the same one her grandfather had used. Pages full of handwritten formulas, wind tables, ballistic calculations. Old science, but proven. Grand-père, she whispered, help me with this one. She settled into the perfect shooting position. The Z-96 was an extension of her body, the scope a third eye. But the most important element was her mind, the ability to account for all variables and unite them in a single moment of perfection. The crosshairs lay on al-Qasidi, but Amelie knew she couldn't aim where he was, but where he would be when the bullet arrived after 4.7 seconds of flight time. She breathed deeply, held her breath, and felt her heartbeat. Between two heartbeats lay the window of perfection. Her finger touched the trigger. In the distance, she could hear the sound of helicopters, the official rescue mission that would arrive too late. For Echo Team, she whispered. Crack. The shot echoed through the alpine silence like the thunder of gods. 3,451 meters away, after 4.7 seconds of flight time, the .338 Lapua Magnum bullet struck Rahman al-Qasidi with surgical precision. The enemy strategist fell, and the coordinated attacks on the American soldiers immediately collapsed. Amelie watched through her scope as the enemy fighters panicked. Without their leader, their tactics dissolved into chaos. The trapped Echo Team used the confusion to move to new positions and hold out until reinforcements arrived. 10 lives saved with a single shot. Amélie packed her equipment. In a few hours, she would again be the quiet cafe regular reading Baudelaire and bothering no one. But her smartphone vibrated again. A message from Colonel Rousseau. Impossible shot confirmed. Echo Team safe. America owes you a debt. But Phantom, there's a problem. Al-Qasidi wasn't just a terrorist. He was an ex-CIA asset. Someone was playing games. We need to talk. Albatross. Amelie stared at the message. Her quiet life in Aspen had just become very complicated. But first, she would go home, change clothes, and appear at the cafe at her usual time. Tom would ask where she'd been, and she would smile and say she took a walk in the mountains. The truth was too complicated for a cafe owner, and too dangerous for a woman who was officially dead. Safe house, Denver, Colorado. 10:30 p.m. The abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Denver looked like thousands of others, decaying industrial architecture bearing witness to better times. But Amelie knew Colonel Marc Rousseau only chose the safest locations for their rare meetings. She entered the building through a side entrance, her Z96 rifle discreetly stored in a guitar case. Old habits. In her world, you could never be too careful. Phantom. The voice came from the shadows. Colonel Rousseau stepped into the light, a 52-year-old man with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much. He wore civilian clothes, but his military bearing was unmistakable. Albatross, Amelie replied. They embraced briefly, old comrades bound by blood and bullets. The shot today was extraordinary, Rousseau said. 451 meters. My ballistics experts say it was physically impossible. Your team doesn't know me, Amelie replied dryly. To them, I've been dead for 5 years. Which brings us to our problem. Rousseau activated a laptop and showed her encrypted files. Rahman al-Qasidi, real name Alan Davis, ex-CIA, trained in the same programs as you. Amelie studied the information. An American agent fighting against American soldiers? It gets worse. Look at this. A new document appeared on the screen. Amelie immediately recognized the CIA seal and classified letterheads. Operation Mirage, she read aloud. That's the program that created you, Rousseau confirmed. Elite snipers, trained for impossible missions, officially terminated in 2018. But someone continued it. In secret, with their own objectives. Rousseau showed her photos of Al-Qasidi Davis at various military exercises. He was part of your original class, Amelie, one of the 5 best marksmen in the program. The realization hit her like a physical blow. I'm saying the man you killed today was once your comrade, and someone deliberately deployed him against American troops. Amelie sat heavily on a crate. Who would do such a thing? Someone who wants to use the Mirage program for their own purposes. Someone with access to classified information and the authority to activate ex-agents. Rousseau closed the laptop. Amelie, there's more. Today's Echo Team mission wasn't a routine operation. They were deliberately lured into that trap. What do you mean? The intelligence that led to their mission was fabricated. Someone wanted American soldiers to die, and someone knew you would react. Amelie stood and walked to the window. Outside, moonlight reflected off the South Platte River, peaceful, calm, a world away from conspiracies and betrayal. You think it was a trap for me? I think someone knows you're still alive, and they wanted to test you. Rousseau pulled out another document. This came in tonight, encrypted, through channels only Mirage operatives know. Amelie read the message. Phantom, impressive work today, but that was just the beginning. 5 Mirage operatives are still active. 1 is dead, you're doing. 4 remain alive. 3 work for us. 1 works against us. Find out who, or all American soldiers will pay for what began today. You have 72 hours. The architect. The architect? Amelie asked. Unknown, but that codename was only used by one person in the original Mirage program. Who? Rousseau's face darkened. General Harrison Blackwood, your former commander, the man who officially ended the program. Blackwood is dead. He died in a car accident in 2019. Officially, the implications ran through Amelie's mind like electric shocks. If Blackwood was still alive, if he was secretly continuing the Mirage program, then her peaceful existence in Aspen wasn't just threatened, it had been an illusion. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to do what you do best. Hunt them. Find the other Mirage operatives. Find out who the architect is. And if I refuse? Rousseau showed her a final photo. The 10 rescued soldiers of Echo Team, all alive, all with families who would hug their fathers, brothers, and sons tonight. Then others will die, and you'll know you could have prevented it. Amelie looked at the photo for a long time. Then she reached for her guitar case. Where do I start? With this man. Rousseau handed her a file. Claude Morrison, codename Raven, last known location Seattle. If he's still loyal, he'll help you. If not, I'll find him. Amelie walked to the door but stopped. Mark, yes? If I don't come back, make sure Tom at the cafe knows I paid my tab. Rousseau smiled grimly. You'll come back, Phantom. You always do. As Amelie left the warehouse, she knew her quiet life was over. The woman who read Baudelaire in the mornings and took peaceful mountain walks had become a legend again, and legends always leave trails of blood. Pike Place Market, Seattle, Washington. 48 hours later, the Pike Place Market was crowded with tourists and locals, but Amelie moved like a shadow through the masses. She had been tracking Claude Morrison for 3 days, from his apartment in Capitol Hill to his nighttime visits to obscure bars, always one step behind him but never seen. Morrison was good, but Amelie was better. She had finally located him in a bookstore in Pioneer Square. a perfect hiding place for a man living in the past. The shop was a front, she knew. The real purpose lay in the basement, a safe house with state-of-the-art communication equipment. At 11:45 p.m., she followed him into the narrow alley behind the shop. Raven. Morrison froze but didn't turn around. I wondered when you'd come, Phantom. He was in his late 40s, lean, with the watchful eyes of a man who had lived too long in the shadows. When he turned, he smiled, but his hand rested on the concealed weapon under his jacket. You look good for a dead woman, he said. You too, for a traitor. Morrison's smile disappeared. Traitor. Interesting accusation from someone who's been playing hide-and-seek for 5 years. I was hiding. You were working. For whom? That was the crucial question. Amelie watched his body language, his eyes, the micro-movements that betrayed lies. I'll tell you that, Morrison replied, if you tell me who gave you the assignment to find me. Albatross. Rousseau. Morrison visibly relaxed. Then you're not working for them. For whom? For the architect and his new friends. Morrison led her into the bookstore and then to the hidden basement. What she saw there surprised even Amelie. A complete operations center with monitors, satellite connections, and enough weapons to outfit a small army. Impressive, she murmured. Necessary. Morrison activated the computers. Amelie, the Mirage program was just the beginning. Someone is using our methods, our training, to build a private military company. Maps, dossiers, and operational plans appeared on the screens. Blackwater was kindergarten compared to this, Morrison continued. They call themselves the Prometheus Group. Military solutions for political problems, regime changes, resource conflicts, counter-terrorism, all for the highest bidder. And the Mirage operatives are their most valuable assets. Elite snipers with no official existence, perfect for jobs that never happened. Amelie studied the information. How many? Of the original 5, Davis is dead. You're doing. I'm working against them. That leaves 3. Leclerc, Fontaine, and, he hesitated, and Blackwood. Blackwood is the architect? No, Blackwood is just a tool. The real architect is someone else, someone with enough political influence to take over and corrupt the program. Morrison showed her a new dossier. Senator Patricia Wells, former Secretary of Defense from 2015 to 2020, Blackwood's former lover. Amelie read the information. She has access to everything. Classified programs, budgets, personnel, and a personal reason for revenge. Do you know why the Mirage program was really terminated? Amelie shook her head. Because of you. Because of your death in Syria. The political pressure was too great. Wells lost her position. Blackwood was forced into retirement. The entire program was shut down. So this is personal, very personal, and she wants you alive. The other operatives are valuable, but you're the crown jewel. The best sniper in American history. Morrison's computer beeped. An encrypted message appeared on screen. Raven and Phantom. How touching. A class reunion. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Lincoln Memorial, reflecting pool. Come both. Or the next American military unit won't be as lucky as Echo Team. The architect. A trap, Amelie said. Obviously. Are we going anyway? Morrison smiled. The first genuine smile of the evening. Of course. When has a phantom ever been afraid of shadows? Amelie checked her weapon. Never. But this time, we bring our own shadows. 24 hours later. Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C. The Lincoln Memorial's reflecting pool mirrored the evening sun as tourists and visitors left the monument. But Amelie and Morrison weren't there for sightseeing. They positioned themselves strategically. Amelie on a nearby rooftop with perfect sightlines to the memorial. Morrison blending with the crowds on the ground. If it was a trap, they would be ready. At exactly 6 p.m., a figure appeared at the memorial. A woman in an elegant black coat, confident, powerful. Through her scope, Amelie immediately recognized her. Senator Patricia Wells, the former Secretary of Defense, the architect. But she wasn't alone. Shadows moved on the surrounding rooftops, other snipers taking their positions. Morrison, Amelie radioed. We have company. I see them. At least 4 shooters. Professionals. Leclerc and Fontaine? Probably. Plus backup. Wells activated a microphone and spoke to the crowd. Her voice was clear, authoritative, accustomed to being heard. Amélie Dupont, I know you're here. I know you can hear me. Tourists looked around confused, but most continued walking. Only security personnel became alert. 5 years ago, you ruined my career. Today, I offer you a chance at redemption. Amélie adjusted her scope. A clean shot at 340 meters. Simple, but she waited. Step out of the shadows. Wells continued. Work with me. The Prometheus group needs someone with your skills. Through her headset, Amelie heard Morrison's voice. It's a trap. She wants you alive. I know. What are you doing? Amelie smiled grimly. What I do best. She aimed her rifle not at Wells, but at the building across the way, where she had identified an enemy sniper. Crack. The first shot eliminated the sniper on the north building. Chaos immediately erupted. Wells's security team sought cover while the remaining snipers tried to locate Amelie's position. "Phantom, this is Leclerc," came a familiar voice over an open radio frequency. "Long time no see." "Not long enough," Amelie replied and fired again. What followed was a deadly ballet of precision. Amelie moved across the DC rooftops like a ghost, while her former comrades hunted her. Every shot was calculated, every movement planned. Crack, crack, crack. 3 enemy snipers eliminated. But Leclerc and Fontaine were still out there, and they knew her methods. "Morrison status," she radioed. "Wells is gone, but I found something interesting." "What?" "A laptop. Completely decrypted files on Prometheus Group's next operation." Amelie ducked as a bullet whizzed past her head. Fontaine had found her. "Details later," she said. "I'm busy." The battle across DC's rooftops lasted another 20 minutes. When the smoke cleared, Leclerc and Fontaine were dead. Wells had vanished, and Amelie once again stood as the last survivor. Epilogue, Miller's Cafe, Aspen. 2 weeks later, Amelie sat at her usual spot, drinking her black coffee. Before her lay a newspaper with the headline, "Senator Wells dies in car accident." Tom brought her a croissant. "You were away for a while, Amelie. Business trip?" "Something like that," she replied and smiled. What the newspaper didn't report, Senator Patricia Wells hadn't died in a car accident. She had been killed by a single .338 Lapua Magnum bullet, fired from 2,847 meters away while hiding in her safe house in Switzerland. The Prometheus Group was dismantled, their clients arrested or fled, their operatives dead or gone underground. Amelie Phantom Dupont had completed her final mission. She opened her book, this time Camus' The Stranger, and began to read. Outside, the first snowflakes of winter fell, and the Rockies stood majestically in the morning light. Her smartphone vibrated. A message from Colonel Rousseau. "Phantom, the U.S. government wants to thank you. Officially, they can't. Unofficially, a considerable sum has been transferred to your Swiss account. You're truly dead, but you're also truly a hero. Albatross." Amelie deleted the message and looked out the window. A helicopter flew in the distance between the mountains. Probably mountain rescue or tourists, but Amelie saw it with different eyes. Flight speed, altitude, distance, old habits never die. Tom noticed her gaze. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" "Yes," Amelie replied and took a sip of coffee. "Very peaceful." And for the first time in 20 years, she meant it. The Phantom had finally come home. But somewhere in the depths of her chalet, the Z96 rifle remained ready, cleaned and loaded. Because you never knew when the world would again need a legend who shot from the shadows, and legends never truly sleep. A story about hidden greatness, the power of precision, and the moment when a quiet life becomes a legendary mission. Sometimes the greatest hero is the one no one sees coming, until it's too late.